Our Heavenly Father, as we come together this evening, we ask for your guidance, your strength, and your wisdom. We ask that you look at this community, that we hold each other's hands and grow as a community in our areas, and that you look at our leaders, that we make good decisions and respect those of others. We ask that these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
And to the republic
for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. April is the Tyler County Child Abuse Prevention Month. I have a proclamation here. Whereas there were 310,848 reports of child abuse or neglect last year in Texas, and whereas there were 166,187 completed investigations of child abuse or neglect last year in Texas, and whereas there were 182 child deaths as a result of child abuse or neglect last year in Texas, and whereas there were 302 reports of child abuse or neglect last year in Tyler County, and whereas there were 170 completed investigations of child abuse or neglect last year in Tyler County, and whereas there were 46 confirmed victims of child abuse or neglect last year in Tyler County, and whereas there were 22 children removed from their homes because of child abuse or neglect last year in Tyler County, and whereas there was one child death because of child abuse or neglect last year. Whereas child abuse and neglect is a community problem affecting the current and future quality of life of a community, and whereas child abuse prevention is a community responsibility and finding solutions depends upon involvement among all people, and whereas communities must make every effort to promote programs that benefit children and their families, and whereas effective child abuse prevention programs succeed because of partnerships among agencies, schools, religious organizations, law enforcement agencies, and business community, and whereas everyone in the community should become more aware of child abuse prevention, and all citizens should become more involved in supporting families to provide safe, nurturing environments for their children, giving them the opportunity to grow up to be caring, contributing members of the community. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Skip Blackstone of Ivanhoe in Tyler County, Texas, by virtue of the authority vested in me, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2023 to be Child Abuse Prevention Month in Tyler County. I also proclaim that Sunday, April the 30th, 2023, to be Blue Sunday, and in so doing, urge all citizens to join in a national effort to raise awareness about the importance of preventing child abuse and showing support by wearing blue in support of the prevention of child abuse and neglect. Sir? Yes, Tricia. Yes, ma'am.
Where do you want me? My name is Tricia Ford. I am your Justice of the Peace, and this is my Chief Court Clerk, Tina Self, but she is also the chairman of our Child Welfare Board, who oversees our foster children in the county. And what we do is if the foster kids need anything like clothing or medical, anything like that, the Child Protective Service workers will call and ask us, and we'll donate the money and write them a check, that sort of thing. We do one fundraiser a year, and that is our purse auction. In November. It's the first Saturday in November, and that money goes towards us, doing everything for the adoption or foster children. Foster children. Once they're adopted, of course, they go off of our radar. And then we also do Adopt an Angel. So the money from the purse auction also helps the children of Tyler County have a Christmas. So we appreciate y'all doing the proclamation, and remember to wear blue. Thank you.
City
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, Mayor. I know you're busy there.
I was trying to get the city,
Oh, yeah, okay.
back. Come here, everybody.
The picture, shall we?
Yes. Come on now. Come on now. Let's,
All right, I saw that. Hello.
did you get it?
It's technologically.
Is it better with the light on?
Thank you, ma'am.
With my name up there, that's not.
Oh, you want it down? Okay. Well, that's what I was trying to do, was just get the city emblem up there.
Thank y'all.
You want to take one more?
Oh, are we taking another one? Oh, okay, start.
It's still up there.
You know,
Start. Slide this way, gentlemen. Come on, Mr. Morris.
That got rid of it. There we go.
no, come on, let's not mess around.
Let's get this one right here.
Okay.
Oh, my goodness.
Come on.
We're gonna play musical.
Is that better? Okay.
Thank you,
Yes,
gentlemen.
ma'am. Thank you. Nice
Thank
to
you.
meet you, Tricia.
She gonna be our new judge?
Oh, naturally.
Okay, Carl's on again.
Okay, there's lots of good stuff going on. We received authorization to release funds for the 11 point. Oh, sorry. Got ahead of myself again. Communications from the audience.
Carl Minch, 540 Galahad Loop. I would like a very clear explanation of what the Code Enforcement Review Committee does, is meant to do, and whether or not it might tend to delay or prevent enforcement of city ordinances. That's item number 13. Thank you.
Okay. Consent agenda. We have the minutes from the regular meeting in March. Do we have a motion to accept?
I'll make that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Motion carries. So now our marshals can move forward. All right, now then to the grants. The 11.9 or $11.4 million grant that's to rebuild the Galahad Dam, Tristan Dam and Camelot Dam and Lake Ivanhoe. We've received authorization to release to release funds. We have to wait till the 26th of this month for the feds to have an opportunity to review it and ask any questions that they might have. Once we get past that, we'll be able to start doing the appraisals of the, we'll be able to pull the trigger and get all the appraisals on the properties that are needed for the Lake Ivanhoe up here. Once we get the appraisals, we have numbers, then we can present that to IPOA, and IPOA can begin the 3 readings to the community on the sale of the properties that are needed for that particular project. I have a preliminary drawing here of what this is Tristan Lakewood. So what they're going to be doing, again, this is a preliminary drawing. Come on, baby, you can do it. This is the boat ramp where it is right now. All these little lines here are 5 foot square, 10 foot wide. No, they're more than 10 foot. They're 5 foot square conduits. They're going to raise the road 5 feet to get the road up even with the dam. What that was going to do was make it difficult to get to the boat ramp into the park. The original proposal was to move the boat launch over here, but you can see that it's very shallow. In addition to that, the land over here is very steep. So we've asked LJA to come up with a plan to run a road down below the raised road over to the boat area. So there'll be enough room here for boats to, or for the people to come in and make a U-turn and back their boat in and then move back over here. IPO is talking about turning this into a parking lot, and Randy's already making plans to build a wooden walkway from one side.
Your cursor's not showing up. It keeps moving around off the screen.
Oh, I'm moving it around?
Yeah. But
Okay.
it's missing at the moment. It's way over there on the side.
The pointer?
Yes, your pointer.
Okay. Come on now. This is another showing the shallow areas. So where this crisscrossing is on the road against the raised road is going to be these square cement pads that are being put down because of the water that might be running over them. It's quite common, is what the engineers are saying. So the good news is we're moving along and we're getting very close to being able to get the appraised numbers and get that to IPOA. The $7.9 million grant is multi-projects all over the city. LJA has provided us with their final construction plans, and we'll be going to bid shortly. So that's very exciting. We're able to move some of the different projects around because of Joe Blacksher coming in and paving Ivanhoe Drive from the monuments to Charmaine Drive East by Candy Cane Park. So we're excited about being able to use those funds for other projects. Let's see. $1.9 million grant. LJA has submitted an updated project location map, and they're working on cost estimates. On the $300,000 comprehensive plan, they're still collecting documents on what we're trying to put together. The $300,000 grant for 22nd Street, we're still working on getting authorization signatures on the documents for them. That's on LJA and our grant administrator. Camelot, $398,000 left in our bond. 100% of the plan is complete. It will be completed by the end of May, and then we'll go out for construction bids. So we're moving ahead with that. And then Ivanhoe Drive, that's the Joe Blacksher thing. It's part of the mitigation mod grant, and that's $1.2 million. We're still 12 to 18 months out. That's the only thing I've been able to get from him. And that's about it for now. I have some information about the marshals, but I won't steal Steve's thunder. So now we're moving to item 2. Rusty, Dams.
Mayor, City Council, the only thing that's been going on mostly is rain and getting rid of the water that's been raining. Over a period of about a week and a half, we got about 5 inches, about 3.5 or so on one few day rain, and then another 1.5 inches on top of that, maybe a week ago. The valve on Charmaine has been 3/4 open, or which for a butterfly valve is about wide open. You don't get much more after 3/4. Excuse me. And I was able to close it down so it's about half open as of yesterday evening, because the spillway is almost completely dry. There's a little leakage through the curb. Have not talked to Jimbo. I get a hold of Jim and talk to him normally when the weather looks like it's going to be still for a while. And then we get rain tonight. And next week doesn't look too good for dry. So we're still waiting for weather and Jim. There's really nothing else going on. You got the, I wrote the reports up for March a little late. I'm bad about that. I'm not much of a paper pusher anymore. If you have any questions?
I got one. What about the bulkhead on Tristan? Have you looked at that?
The bulkhead on Tristan. The bulkhead on Tristan. Oh,
Down-
no, haven't looked at it. It may not be worth looking at, and that's why I've backed off and not bothered with it.
And why is that?
Trying to find somebody to do it might be worse than, may be very difficult, because we're not in a Houston city limits or something where we have contractors all over the place. We can try for it, but odds are the money may be better spent on the cost that we're spending on getting the caulking done, and there may be something else going on. What I'm talking about is the upstream side of Charmaine and Tristan. I walk them down with a stick, and I beat on the concrete if I'm wearing a glove, because my stick's wearing out. And I'm getting too many hollow spots. It hasn't been too terrible in the past. We've had, Charmaine's had hollow spots on the upstream side, for years. But they haven't warranted any attention yet. But I'm beginning to get concerned because I've got too many hollow spots on the upstream side of Galahad. And so I'm trying to figure out in my mind, how do you fill them up? They're probably not big enough to just haul in trucks and pumpers and all that stuff. They'll be small. And so what we've done before is use a higher low density foam, but you got to drill a hole. We need to drill holes in the beginning of all that process in order to find out how bad it is. And that means Jimbo, or the talk has been to start getting our workforce involved with that sort of thing so we could do that. But you need a drill that can go through concrete, and you need it to be 3/4 inch or so. And it's got to be it's supposed to be 6-inch concrete. So it's not that simple to drill the hole. And you might need a bunch of them if you try to address the upstream side of these things. We know that Galahad has had that 1 foot hollow spot at the bottom of the concrete. We've known that for years, but it hasn't been addressed. And to address it, you got to drop Galahad down about 2 foot. It's already, when it was originally designed, they didn't keep it at that level. They raised it by putting in that 14-inch weir across the spillway. And so it's 14 inches above where it was designed to be, probably due to property owners wanting it higher, and probably the engineer going along with it, which was Butch Wilson. But we've got this undercut, and eventually you keep losing ground underneath that concrete. And so the question is, are we getting to the point where we're losing too much? In the past, it's held at 1-inch cut. It's nice clay underneath there. But it needs to be filled in sooner or later. You know, as we get these big rains, you get the 20-inch rains, or the big ones that threaten to go over the roadway, and Galahad goes over sooner than it should. If we get about 6 inches of rain, then you're starting to threat the spill, or you're threatening the roadway after about 6 inches. Good old Tristan goes over at 3 inches or thereabouts. If you get 3 inches and start getting more, it's probably going to go across the road. That's one of the reasons. The state has always written up the reports that we needed to do something with Tristan because it's the first one to go over. But anyway, that's my issues right now, or my thinking. If you raise Tristan, then that one will be over with, and the state will probably be very happy. But they haven't been out here. Normally they come about every 3 years, and it's been, I don't know, 5 years probably since they've been here to do an inspection.
Did they come on their own, or were they called and invited to come?
No, they come out regularly, or they used to have a schedule before COVID showed up. And they had their own schedule. They would let us know they were going to be here on a certain day. They'd call a CD.
So they must be
Or
just
send a
behind,
letter.
huh?
Yeah, and then we would go around with them as they looked at each of the dams. And they would assess its, what do they call that? It's kind of a threat value of sorts. Camelot, they didn't really care anymore. Charmaine, it was turning into a threat. They didn't like the downstream side where people lived. Emergency action plan. Kathy wrote one up and sent it to them, and apparently they never got it. If it had been successful, we would be the only ones in Tyler County to have one. But that's a big paper pusher.
Is all this in your report,
What report?
your dam report about Galahad and,
No, I haven't written them up yet. No, well, I sent it out, but I didn't put a statement out about the upstream hollows that I'm finding. I try to assess things. Okay, when do you want to push this item? There's a bunch of items on the dams, but we push a little at a time because it would cost too much to address them all. And you're fixing to fix Tristan, so that'll be it. Camelot.
It might be nice to have a comprehensive list with some kind of priority established for each one of the problems that you've encountered.
That way we can look at the budget and address each one.
Yeah, okay. All right.
It doesn't have to be done tonight.
It won't be.
I know.
A lot of it I've written up over the years,
Okay,
a little at a time.
okay.
But nobody goes back and read that. I'll add it to the list of things you're supposed to have for the dams. I've done this before too.
Well, okay. Not trying to make busy work.
No, it's fine. It should be done. But it needs to be done for each dam. And then what the issues will be after we have all this stuff fixed. We've gotten a lot done over the years.
It would be safe to say that Galahad and Charmaine dams will need to be addressed before the other. Tristan should be taken care of. Camelot will be taken care of.
Yeah.
Galahad,
Galahad.
Used to, those were the worries. And Camelot. But Charmaine had the concrete slabs on it. We found the major holes. Got all those fixed. Most of those were due to lack of caulking. Galahad's been nice to have because it never has anything go wrong on it. It's smaller, half the size of Charmaine, and it just sits there and behaves itself. Doesn't move around a lot. But Charmaine's got such huge slabs that something's going to move, even though they're built not to.
Rusty, may I join you? Mm-hmm. Okay. A part of what Rusty had spoke to earlier in regards to the emergency action plans, thanks to Debbie Peterson, we submitted to LJA Engineering the emergency action plan for Camelot as a preliminary for LJA to look at, and then Debbie's going to use that to compile the emergency action plans for the other dams, which will be required by TCEQ before they are going to sign off on us getting any funds. Because they're one of the agencies involved in all of this on the dams. So thanks to Debbie for getting things moved to the point that we are, and Victoria with LJA Engineering has taken that and is going to be compiling some other information that will need to go in, because Camelot's not listed as a high hazard dam. Tristan and Tristan is. So we'll probably be looking at getting the Ivanhoe emergency action plan done, and then we'll work on Tristan. So that, yes, for sure. That's an update from that side. Thank you, Rusty.
Thank you, Debbie. Those are a challenge to write up. I wrote 2 of them, and then Kathy, I told her I wasn't writing anymore. And so she tackled it, and we sent it in, and they claim they didn't get it. I've got copies of all that stuff. Anything else?
No, thank you, Rusty.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Judge, you taking Kathy Rader's stuff?
Okay, the municipal court report for March of 2023, total fines and court costs collected was $1,425. Total fines retained by the city was $1,073.50. Total fines sent to the state was $351.50. Fiscal year to date, fines collected $3,936.10. Previous fiscal year to date, fines collected $6,045.20. Ordinance hearings scheduled were 7. Ordinance hearings held was 4. She also wanted to say that the warranty amnesty program is in effect until May 15th, but may be extended until June 15th of 2023. We had only one individual take advantage of this program at this point, and he did pay his full citation, or I'm sorry, paid the citation in full, which was a little over $800. Any questions?
Awesome, thank you. Marshal?
All right, good evening, Mayor, Council. For the month of March, we had 44 calls. 22 of them were handled by Officer Crossman. I had 16 myself. Officer Baker, or Deputy Baker, had 6. We had 5 offense reports by Crossman, 3 by me. 1 felony arrest, 1 misdemeanor arrest. We had 2 officers that recently completed the environmental crimes training. I just got back from the chief's course. We're going through our transition right now, so a little update on that. We have just about everything in place. We're missing a couple documents, but the main thing we're waiting on is the MOU with the county. And we've already made contact with the sheriff's office on that. So hopefully within the next week or 2, we'll actually see a document that we can actually bring before the next council. We did actually have some donations given to us by the Alabama Coshada Police Department. 2 petitions, prisoner transport petitions for our trucks that will actually be able to mount in there so we can actually secure prisoners in the back seat versus transporting in the front seat. We got 2 of those, as well as some tough book computers. That way, if we go into emergency operations, then we can actually outfit all city operations with rugged tough books at that point. And then starting today, we are actually on 7 days a week coverage for the city. We're going to be able to have coverage for majority of the day and evening. And so that's kind of a highlight in the direction that we're moving to, eventually getting to hopefully a 24-hour department at some point. But this is a big step. Now, thanks to the mayor and to Will Warren for working with us and sitting down with the guys, come up with a plan. Because ultimately it comes down to the citizens in the community and their expectation to be able to be taken care of.
I'd also like to point out his uniform. This is going to be the new standard uniform for the office when we get it established.
Yep. All right.
Looking sharp, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Black, Code Enforcement.
All right, for code enforcement, I was able to get a total of 8 actual properties closed. One of them that I did leave off the list, which I was super excited, so I don't know how I left it off the list, but we had a 1990s motor home that was missing the motor that's probably been sitting there since 1990 or so. That it had trees growing up in it, you name it, but it was actually pulled out from 28th Street, so that now it's gone. You may notice it. You may not. You may not even seen it because it was behind all the trees. Some of the cases that we did close were abandoned or substandard building. It's now been secured. The property's been cleaned up. That was on 17th Street. We had 3 of them for lot maintenance. We had 1 for RV sticker in District 3. We had 2 junk vehicles that was removed, and we had a shipping container removed. And that was all in for this month. So I would like to say that when I was hired here, there was multiple doors of opportunity that would let somebody grow and advance. Since then, these doors, one by one, have seemed to have been closed. So after giving it much thought, I've decided that I'm going to put in my 2-week notice. So I'm going to make that effective. It will be March 3rd unless you guys deem it to be sooner. Any questions?
March?
Or I'm sorry, May 3rd, sorry.
Mr. Marshall.
Howdy.
Howdy.
How's everybody tonight?
We were better before we had a resignation.
Well, I promise you I'm not going to do that. Y'all have your cheat sheet maps there in front of you.
Yes, sir.
Just enough with the books. Okay. Hey, after the next meeting, since I do have a computer now and a new copy machine, you shall see a new look for all the reports.
Oh, and a printer.
And a printer. What'd I say?
Copy machine.
Well, printer, copy machine, tells you which century I'm living in.
You're just too excited.
I'm just beyond excited. Okay, just on the upside here, the totals for the month of March. We put out 95 tons of number 2 limestone base. We put out 180 tons of our world-famous SPM mix. The prices on the side, we put out twice as much mix as we did limestone, and we did it for a quarter of the cost. So that's what I'm talking about. Hot mix coal asphalt, we put out 3.5 tons. We installed about 190 feet of culverts. That's 9.5 culverts. We removed 3 trees. Unfortunately, one of them was the tree. But I know, I see the replacements, every morning we look to see what's new. Kind of like a horror movie. I think I've seen that once. We actually mowed 1.4 miles, and we completed 21 work orders in the month of March, which was a new record for us. So we're moving along pretty good there. On your little maps, you can see the areas that we've been, what we're doing, kind of get an idea of where we're working.
David,
Yes,
question.
sir.
These culverts you put in, is any of those in anticipation of the work we're going to have done on the
No,
roads?
no,
This
these
is
are
all
just,
separate?
yeah,
Okay, thank
yeah.
you.
We've got 8 work orders left on the board at this time. I think 6 of those are culverts, so
Oh, okay,
we're trying to gear up for this other, because it's going to be
a lot.
one hell of a
So
job.
we've brought David into the planning sessions on the where the ditches are going to need to be worked and where the culverts are going to need to be replaced or
Yeah,
And
placed.
shortly after that, I had a heart attack. There's a lot of work
Yeah, a
fixing to
lot.
go on.
He's
Yeah, we
asking for
know.
more hands.
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You can't grow 2 more?
Pardon me?
You can't grow 2 more?
We could use 2 more minimum. We've got a lot coming up with all these contracts. It's going to be a
Oh, yeah.
very, very, very busy summer, and trying not to let it interfere with our normal work is going to be pretty much a magic act if we can pull it off.
For sure.
Okay, on to some good news. We were
That
talking about
wasn't-
the mix
That
real
wasn't
quick.
good news you just gave us?
Yeah, it was okay.
That
This gets better.
That was really good news.
We have been doing this mix since 4th quarter of 2022. From that point through the first 2 quarters of this year and the beginning month of April of the 3rd quarter, we have saved. We just got a bunch more. We got 252 tons the last 2 days, or will be 252 tons. Savings to date, $51,139.86. Had we been using limestone instead of this stuff.
Now, are those real dollars?
Those are real dollars.
Thought so.
Real dollars. The better news is we used to do this for $4.75 a ton. Prices has gone up since last year. So now our cost to acquire and produce this mix is $6 a ton. So we've had one price increase. On the other hand, limestone has had 6 price increases since we started this. The latest one is $49.25 for a ton. It used to be $39 when we started. But now they add a fuel surcharge on of $1.18 per ton. So the total tonnage or money for a ton is $50.43 versus the mix at $6 a ton. So that's a $44 and some odd cents difference. We're trying to find more and more uses for that to kind of help us survive this mess. Yeah, our increase has only been $1.25, so we got them beat. But we're on the right track. If we stay on that track, I'll let y'all do the math, but I'm figuring somewhere around a $95,000 to $97,000 savings.
That would almost buy an asphalt reclaimer.
That's what I was thinking. That's kind of why I brought that up. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Any questions? We're open for business.
I have a couple.
Okay.
One is on Lancelot. I see you put in the mix on there, but not the whole street.
No, we just did at that point due to the weather situation. It was raining. We didn't know from one day to the next. We did the worst that we had to do to get it done and get it out of the way. Get it out of the way and make it passable.
Okay, all of Ivanhoe East.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to drive on that because
Okay.
it was pretty good before with all the limestone and everything, but are you planning on doing Ivanhoe West also?
That's good. Okay. She was my main concern.
So how's the dust?
7 days a week.
How's the dust?
It's a lot better. I mean, there's a little bit, but
Sure.
it's all over.
So when that stuff first goes down, it's dusty until it gets packed down. David and I have talked about a water tank and, you know, when we put it down, run water across it and then the roller to pack it down to eliminate or reduce the amount of dust or the period of time that it's dusty. Because it will remain dusty until it rains.
Sure, until it gets packed in good. If you go over there, keep in mind this is just the first, what we call a skim coat, just to kind of get everything leveled up. We do want to come back with another
finish
coat
it
on
off.
top of that, about another 2 inches on top.
Okay, and then west?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You be able to do that before the road work starts, so the.
Yeah,
Well-
we should. I want to get quite a bit of this, and we can also do Lakeview Circle, I think.
Yeah.
The part that's not paved yet, because that's going to be a major detour for, I think they were talking 360 days
Yeah.
for the length of the contract. So that's got to be up and going quickly.
Thank you.
You bet.
You want to talk about how that stuff self-heals? Or no?
Sure.
It's okay. It's all right.
You know, this is new stuff that we've kind of put together, and David, I think it was you that kind of snickered a little bit in a good way, in a joking way. One of you guys did about self-healing. After a rain, this water will cut across the road. Doesn't cut across the road near as bad with this, but when it does, and once it begins to dry within several days, I think the traffic and the moisture being out of it basically lets it fluff back up, and it works out good. Same thing for the potholes. I'm not going to say it's going to last forever, because they're starting to show somewhere, but lasts a lot longer than this limestone so far. So yeah, we're calling it a self-healing material.
We'll check with TxDOT and see what they
No,
call
don't
it.
say a word to them. No.
No, we don't want anybody to know what our mixture is.
We won't have anything left.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. that it?
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
I don't have any questions, just a simple statement. That's a pretty impressive work report considering being up against all the inclement weather that you guys have been facing, so give your crew our best.
I will do so, all 3 of them.
But we would like more.
I know, and I understand the money situation, but
We're
truthfully, we are going to be up between a rock and a hard spot when all this starts to keep up with our regular
How is
stuff.
Gabriel?
Gabriel is doing, I think, well. I think yesterday was the first in-town rehab. Up until that point, I think they've been coming to his residence and doing that. But he's up in spirits. You know, he's ready to rock and roll.
Okay.
He's fussing every time I put somebody else on the mower. We kind of have to keep that a secret. So if you're listening, Gabriel, nobody got on it today. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, report on planning and zoning. Laurie, you want to give it? Since Carolyn is missing?
She's busy,
Yeah.
Mayor
Yeah.
and City Council. We've been busy. What we have for you tonight, we've submitted a revised burning ordinance for your approval, for you to look at.
That's the 2023-4.
I believe it's next on the agenda.
Yes, ma'am.
What we have coming to you next month is a revised tree ordinance. We've had several concerned citizens asking us questions about the current tree ordinance. So what we did the last 2 meetings was we revised the tree and harvesting, and that's coming to you next month. And upcoming, we're working on land usage. We've had several requests from individuals, and we've talked to several people about square footage requirements, tiny homes, things like that. So that's where we're going to start in May. So, any questions?
So on this, this ordinance, can you tell us what the change was?
The burning?
Yes, ma'am.
Last month, I believe there was a question from
About water?
Councilman Harrington about the water.
Yes.
And we did take his advice, and we added the word running into the ordinance. Because with fire, it's difficult to say how much is an adequate amount of water to put out a fire. So as long as there was a available running water source, we thought that that would suffice. And that's the only item that we changed, was that one sentence. So basically, it's the same ordinance with the
David?
word running added,
Do you have any issue?
so,
Are we on that agenda item yet?
not yet. Any other questions?
Ahead of the horse.
Councilman Warren?
We are.
I have a question on the ordinance.
Yes, sir.
It says here that the closest edge of the fire is to a minimum of 10 feet from the nearest property line.
Yes, sir.
Wooden fence, structure, tall vegetation, brushes.
Low-hanging trees, et cetera.
So if a homeowner has one that's been there for a while that's that close, should they move it?
Should they move
Their fire-
a fire pit?
Mm-hmm.
State law says that any fire pit should be 10 feet from any residence, back porch, building, structure, property line. That's state law.
Okay.
We good?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're on to number 8, David. Your main objection last time had to do with water and defining how that was to be delivered and what was adequate.
Readily accessible running water in the immediate vicinity of the fire seems to be pretty pointed. If we can't make a clear determination on that, then maybe it's
I think we're good.
Do I have a motion to accept this revision to the ordinance 2023-4?
Also move.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Motion passes. Ordinance is accepted. Consider for discussion the action and authorization to go for the construction bids of the HGMP supplemental 7.9 million. What? My eyes don't work like they did.
What did we miss?
Number 9, consider for discussion and action to recommend for from the review committee on the Title County appraisal for the property acquisitions for the $11 million grant. Let me see here. We went out to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 entities. CD, the committee members were CD Woodrum, John Craven, Jessica Dado, our grant administrator, and Tommy Morris,
Who was not there?
who was not unable to attend.
Right.
The recommendation, the proposals were due April the 4th. The response from firms, Scott Coker Appraisals, experience 55 points, work performance 30, capacity to perform 15, total score was 100. The council recommended that the appraisal company that would be selected would be Coker Appraisals. Do I have a motion to accept Coker Appraisals?
And they're gonna appraise the property on that 11.9 grant?
Yes, sir. That's beginning, once we get the final okay on the authorization to release funds, it will be the 26th. We don't anticipate any questions from the federal government, but we have to have that waiting period. As soon as that's done, we'll be able to draw funds and begin the appraisal process for the lake bed of Ivanhoe Lake and the properties surrounding it, the properties adjacent or behind the dam on Lake Ivanhoe, and begin to work around towards Lakewood and Tristan Dam and the boat launch there. So before we can do anything, we have to have the money to get the appraisals started. We have to be able to pay them. We have to get the appraisal numbers to present to IPOA, who then can begin the 3 readings to present to the homeowners association. I don't anticipate a problem, but it's a process we have to go through. So do I have a motion to accept Coker Appraisals? They were the only one.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, now then. The title company? Where's that?
Well, that is, 2 was combined into 1 because we went out for bids for both.
Okay. Oh, I thought this was a duplicate. Apologies. Yeah. So the committee, once again, was C.D. Woodrum, John Craven, Jessica Dado. Tommy was absent. So it went out to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 entities. The proposals were due back on April the 4th. Response firms were Sonia Maxey, Hooks Title and Abstract, and then Leanne Overstreet, Tyler County Title. The criteria was a GLO MIT property acquisition. The ratings were experience 55 points, work performance 30, capacity to perform 15, total score was 100. The recommendation to council for the title company is Tyler County Title Company. Do I have a motion to accept Tyler County Title Company?
I'll make that motion.
Have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. CD, we're good. Now then, consider for discussion action authorization to go out for construction bids on the supplemental $7.9 million grant. That's the one that has multiple sites around the city. We've had the contract reviewed by Brad Elrod. He's signed off on it. We've sent it to LJA, and we need to be able to start going out for bids. What do I? Can I have a motion to go out to authorize?
I'll make a motion that we authorize to go out for construction bids on the HG&P supplemental grant.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Let's talk about it for a second.
All right, sir.
I see they broke it up into 4, so a contractor can bid for all of it, or we could end up with 4 contractors. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so that's all. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, the discussion that we had was the mobilization fees. If one contractor gets it,
It's a lot less.
we don't want to pay 5 or 4 mobilization fees if they're already here.
Well, true.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Consider for discussion the sign ordinance. Laurie? Oh, this is, the permit for signs. There's a permit fee, but there's no dollar amount. Do we want to establish a dollar amount for a permit fee? It could be 0.
Well, it's handling and processing time in the office,
Correct.
so it's an incurred cost. The city should charge something.
$10.
Depends on how long it takes to process the permit. 10 minutes?
Not long.
Does anyone know?
Yes. 10 minutes.
That seems reasonable then.
Okay.
Dollar
Aye.
amount?
Do I have a motion to establish a $10 permit fee for signs?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. That was easy. All right, CD. It's time for the financial report. You're up, sir.
With the council's permission, I'm going to leave this thick folder here, and I'll cover the high points since we've been at this now for 2 hours.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, Mayor and Council, thank you.
Hi, CD.
And especially with Daniel Rainey from Goff Harrington here earlier, presenting the fiscal year 2022 audit results and all the work that went into getting that to the point where they actually only had to be here 1 day. Now, that doesn't take into account the back and forth that we had leading up to that day and then follow up afterwards. But it's done, and
That's a testimonial to your efforts, CD, and it's greatly appreciated.
well, yeah, I appreciate that. It's a lot that goes into it. But anyway, the financial documents, including the bank and tax class statements, were sent out to the council earlier in the month. I have not sent you the reconciliation that came from Kyle Heineman. Just know that I've reviewed them, and all of our accounts are reconciled with all of our bills that we've paid, as well as any outstanding bills that haven't cleared the bank yet. So be aware of that, and I can get those to you tomorrow. The accountant financial reports and other items on the report for the month. Okay. The state comptroller direct deposited $6,481.65 on the 12th of this month for our sales and use taxes that were collected in January. That was reported to the comptroller in February. Of course, it shows up here in March. Last month, the sales tax deposit for February basically was $6,521. Now, year-to-date ending March 1st, total sales tax income is $48,659 compared to last year for the same series of months came in at $47,455. So that's giving you a comparison where we stand this year compared to last year. Keep supporting our local businesses, folks. Ad valorem taxes, they came in April the 11th and totaled $31,026.44, with $25,323.91 of that going to our maintenance and operations, and $5,702.53 going to interest and sinking fund. Calculated balance of delinquent taxes stands at $374,810 as of the end of March. And that's one of those deals that shows up in that audit report. It's buried in some of those pages that Daniel did not cover in depth, but that's what's due the city, but we may never see it. So at some point, the accountants will probably come to the council and say, on some of these, we probably should, well, they'll have to go through other entities as well. Probably when the school districts decide they're going to sign off on some of those delinquent taxes, then we'll start hearing about that. But anyway, there's almost $375,000 owed to the city that is out there. That's the aggregate amount that's added up from 2010 to current. There was a payment on delinquent taxes in Ivanhoe North, which was that 1 year of 2010, $16.56. Here it is. The tax payment was $6.44. The penalty and interest came to $10.12. So you might want to pay and avoid those penalties and interest if you're out there. The calculated balance of unpaid taxes, penalties, and interest for Ivanhoe North for that 1 year stands at $5,301. That's a moving figure because it will change with the penalties and interest that accrue from 1 month to the next. Pledged securities at Citizen State Bank, that totaled $219,433 above our FDIC insurance of $250,000. So that gave us a good cushion of over $300,000 above our deposits. That makes sure that if something comes in and gets deposited, it's public funds, and so it's covered. Now, the issue of raising the federal debt ceiling continues to keep the financial landscape in a not very stable place, although it doesn't seem to be affecting our text class interest rate, which climbed from 4.38% at the beginning of March to end the month at 4.73%. TML risk pool claim statement summary, going back to when the city became a member of the risk pool for insurance, was included in the council's packet, and it shows the payments that were made on the various claims that have occurred through the years. I'm not able to give exact details, but on some of the claims, the actual amount paid on the claim as compared to the cost of the suit was about 1/10. So it costs a lot for all those attorneys. Now, that claims experience, by the way, is factored in when TML Risk Pool re-rates the city for our annual contribution. And just an added note here that since the police department is going to be going to a full 7-day-a-week, we'll probably see an additional contribution that we'll be needing to make on that. They've notified us it's going to be somewhere around $1,100 or so, but we'll get that determination. It depends on how quickly the police department comes into existence.
If they're working the same hours that they had been?
Yes, sir. That was one thing that Officer Drumm and I had talked about, and he was asking, and so I got that preliminary information from TML, so he would be aware of that. Mayor Pro Tem Warren, who serves as city's investment officer, completed the Public Funds Investment Act training as required by the state. That online course is equivalent to 10 hours of classroom training.
CD, that's ongoing.
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
not-
Okay. My
I'm not
apologies.
finished that yet.
Okay, well, getting close though. That's one of those things that we tip our hat to Councilman Warren on because it's just a real pain. Tommy can attest to that.
Yeah, several times.
All right. The Texas Demographic Center, and this is a little bit off of financials, but we'll get back to that. Texas Demographic Center updated the estimated population of Ivanhoe, or in Ivanhoe, as of January the 21st of 2022, and it went from 1327 in the census figures of 2020 up to 1346. So we've increased a few people there. Comparisons-wise, the city of Woodville decreased from amount of 2,403 population in 2020 census to 2,391 starting out the year of 2022. Next population estimate is supposed to be coming out in July, and we'll see where things go. The figures are based on monthly figures that we turn in for home construction. How important is that, you ask? Well, the Texas Community Development Block Grant allocation to DebtCog, which we just are on the verge of submitting for our 2023-24 application. The allocation to DebtCog, which is in turn disbursed via grants to cities and counties within its jurisdiction, decreased from $3,515,273 last year. And for this year, it's $2,405,351. So what that means, fewer grant applications will actually be funded. Population is what counts, sort of like what school districts deal with their student attendance levels. Well, it happened. The billing from the Tyler County Clerk's Office for the November 2021 election came in February this year at $3,673 a few cents. Now been added to by the billing received earlier this month for the November 2022 election. That came in at $3,193.71. So that line item in the budget will show an overage. And then, of course, this is the time of the year when the likelihood of line items being over or under start showing up. And we'll get to that adopted budget in a moment and see how in-depth the council wants to get into that. The budget comparison spreadsheet that I put together, you'll see the 6-month standing of each line item after the accountant. That's Kyle Heineman. And I spent time going back and forth to work up a form that council and I can understand so we know where each line item is at this point in the year. As you saw from the notes that I had on the budget comparison that I sent with that, that's Kyle had sent out to us at the end of March. Still some things that need to be addressed in the next budget comparison printout from QuickBooks Online. So we'll be working on that to clarify things for the April report. But what you see on that adopted budget, fiscal year 2023 form, 4 pages of it, is actually a comparison between what was adopted by the council on each of those line items and what is remaining in that line item at the 6-month point, end of March. So you'll see in particular areas there's parenthesis. Well, on the income side, that's good because that means we're over the amount that was budgeted. On the expenditure side of things, if the number is in parentheses, it's not so good because we're over budget for that particular line item. One that stands out is the contingency miscellaneous on page 2. Right now, or as of the end of March, we're $1,670 in the hole for that line item. The training and education mileage, there was no budget set up for that. So it's showing an overage there as well. We'll have to figure out how we want to deal with that since it wasn't a budget line item, but it is an expenditure when somebody is going for training somewhere and turn in their mileage. Those are the two highlights that really stand out. As we get over to the last page there, which is the ARPA expenses, you'll see that for the auditor, $9,800 has been pulled or will be pulled from the ARPA fund to go towards the auditor's costs. And we'll be getting our billing from Goff Harrington for their audit. So we'll be seeing that item pretty much getting wiped out. On code enforcement, we had an expense, gosh, what was it? $150. I'll have to go back and look at the profit loss deal to get that for you. But then we zeroed out the Marshal Public Works vehicles, $111,065 line item that was in the amended budget that Councilman Warren had put together back for the February council meeting. So that's a quick snapshot of where we stand at the 6-month mark for the city's budget. Okay, I have covered a lot in a short period of time, and I could spend another hour talking about what the legislature is trying to do to cities, including small cities, that will impact us one way or another. But that's another day.
Please.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, C.D.
Any questions?
No, sir.
Thanks, C.D.
Okay, there was a note that I had for myself. We proceeded last month not to approve or disapprove the financial report for February. It's not on the agenda, but if we can get approval for at least the March financial report, and then we'll catch the February report.
So is this with your handwritten notes accurate? Is that?
On the worksheets?
Yes, sir.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
And this is what I'm going to be working with. We just ran out of time before the council meeting and all the other stuff that was happening as we got ready for the council meeting. So this is what I've already sent to Kyle, and so we'll get things worked out, including those areas where there was no money put into a budget line item in the actual budget, but we do have it in QuickBooks for like that mileage reimbursement. So we'll figure out how we can deal with that.
So
I have one question. On your worksheet here, the track 3, is that the third one? Is that the last one?
Let's see, which one was it?
On the last page?
Oh,
Down there by the Ford truck, track 3 on Camelot? Was that the last one of those 3 that we were buying?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, sir.
Thought so. Okay, thank you.
It came in this year's budget. The other 3
Were last year.
properties were in 2022, yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
So
Appreciate it.
do you need us to?
A motion and.
We need a motion to accept
Please.
the March financials.
I make a motion, we accept the March financials.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. March financials are approved. CD? Thank you. Number 13, consider for discussion action establishing Code Enforcement Review Committee. Mr. Warren.
Mayor, I'm going to withdraw this motion, this line item at this time. At the current developments, we need to rethink this.
All right, sir. Number 14, consider for discussion action changes to employee classification, employee handbook. Mr. Warren.
Okay, Council, moving the marshals to the 7-day-a-week schedule required that we make some new employment classifications because we're changing the way we pay them. We're going to start putting them on a salary. And so with that being said, we had to make an employment classification to make them a full-time salaried marshal. And that's what this pertains to, is making that one position in our organization. Any questions or comments?
I don't have any question about that, but in where it says compensatory, basically time, full-time salaried marshals. There's one statement in here that says a marshal, no, it says, these hours, if you work overtime, must be approved by the chief marshal. I don't see that as being a viable thing. Because if you get a late call and you work overtime, you're gonna have to call the chief marshal and say, I've got a late call and we have to work overtime.
It'd be more of those things that when they just shoot me a message and let me know, that way by the time that the pay period is over for the 2-week period,
Steve?
then we
Okay, Steve, you're gonna need to be at the mic.
Say again, all after.
So the guys have been pretty good so far with notifying me if something comes up. And it's not one of these that where they have to call me to get approval for it. It's one of those that by the time they turn in their timesheets for the end of the 2-week period, then anything that's past their 72 hours allotted would be signed off, approved for them to have it banked for compensatory time later on.
Right, well, I understand that, and that makes sense. We just need to move the word approval to something else, because it's not really approval.
Notification.
Notification.
Right, yeah. And it
Okay.
would be, they just, and they're good about shooting me a text message or an email or even a phone call, depending on what it is.
Yeah, and I understand that, and I think that's necessary. I was just looking at the word approval because,
Right.
you know, they're already doing it. They're just letting you know that
Sure.
they have a call that they've got to work late on. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay,
All right.
great, thank you.
So would you be okay with it if that word was changed to notification?
Yeah, so they just notified the chief marshal or chief of police.
Is any action required on that, CD?
Okay, if the council approves it as amended, then, it'd be simple for Councilman Warren to update that in his document, and then it'll be,
Do I have a motion to approve it with that change?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes with the exception that approval is changed with notification.
Okay.
Personal time off policy, number 15. Will?
This goes along with the same for the marshals, that once they notify the chief that they are working over, they can bank these hours and use them at a later date. They can use up to 36 hours. They can accrue 36 hours per 6 months, and before they accrue any more, they must take some time off. And we talked to Chief Drumm about this, and this is a work in progress, but he will schedule that time off so that we have coverage. Main thing we want to, one of the things that we're trying to achieve here is that if they do work over, that they are compensated. We don't want them to lose time. So it's a win-win for the city and a win-win for them. I know the guys, when we talk to them, they like the schedule. They have a set schedule. They know exactly when they're going to work, and they support all of this.
The other thing is by placing them on salary, we're able to control our costs now, and we can establish a set schedule that will mirror, I don't think you mentioned it, the sheriff's department's schedule, 2 on, 2 off, 5 on, 2 off, 2 on, 5 on.
That's a good idea. Works well.
So part of Steve's strategy with the schedule, and the marshals all really are excited about this, is that they'll be able to be teamed up with a deputy sheriff who will be on the same schedule so that they can back one another up.
That's always a good thing.
I know you know.
Yeah.
So,
So make a motion to adopt this policy change?
Yeah, second,
second, you make the motion?
I'll make a motion.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Consider for discussion action changes to personnel policy. Again,
Okay, one more in some of our policies that we have that cover like unsatisfactory work performance, failure to comply with city policies, became noticeable that if an employee that should work after hours, after the city is closed, operating hours, they must get approval to do so, and that their supervisor is notified of that. And the other part of that is that if they do miss their time, they can have an option, say for illness or family matters, they have the option to gain back some of those hours so long as their supervisor schedules that.
Yeah.
It's just in the policy that that it's clear cut what we expect and how we can proceed forward.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea, because if an employee has to take off and then he needs the money, obviously, it'd be good if David, for instance, could assign him some days, maybe even on a Monday, where he would be working.
And it's
It's a good
also
idea.
that we maintain security of the building, that we know who's here, when they're here, and that somebody is in the know as well. So I make a motion that we accept these changes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 17, you want to strike that?
I want to strike number 17, Mayor, at this time.
Okay, very well. Can we recess to the executive session, please?
Do we have any
I know. Yeah, it's gonna be. Okay, we're back in session. We're done. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Good night. Thank you.
Might give me a ride home, baby. Betsy had to go to a church meeting. She dropped me off and I don't know what time she comes back.